Welcome to Slaying Excel Dragons video number 19. Hey, these are the videos that accompany this book, and we're still in Chapter 5, title sheet. We got to talk about worksheet, workbook, and 3D cell references. So far, we've seen the 4 basic, relative, absolute, and 2 types of mix. That's 4, plus 3 makes 7. All right, let's go over to our workbook. We're in the excelisfun Start workbook. Of course, you can download it on the link below the video. We're going to start on the sheet CR8. And for our first worksheet reference, we're also going to use the CAR sheet. Now, here's the situation. We have schedule of accounts receivable. We have customer names, and then boom, boom, boom. These are all the amounts that people owe us. So we have totaled. I'm going to hit F2. And that number, this is the subsidiary ledger and accounting. That number has to equal the controlling account over in our ledger. So I'm going to click over on this sheet, CAR, and there is our controlling account amount. So I'm going to click back on CR8, check to see in balance. Well, this is going to involve 2 cell references. We need this one, and then we need one from the other sheet. Now let's remind ourselves how we put a cell reference in a formula. All right, there's 3 clicks: equals, click on the cell, enter. Now notice we hit enter. That's very important. Now to get a sheet reference, it's actually 4 clicks. Now before we do our formula here to check if these 2 things are in balance, I'm going to do a sheet reference. Now notice 3 clicks if the cell is on this sheet. But watch, 4 clicks if it's on a different sheet. Equal sign. And we got to click on the sheet. That's number 2. Number 3, click on the cell. So number 1 and 3 are the same as a regular cell reference. The only thing we did different was we clicked on the sheet. Now here's where people get in trouble. Instead of hitting enter, the 4th click here, they click back on this sheet. Now I'm going to hit enter, just to show you that that's the proper way to do it. Equal sign, click on the sheet, click on the cell, enter. And I'm going to hit F2 and show you there's our sheet reference. Now we'll come back in just a moment. Notice it says car. We'll come back and talk about that in more detail. But now I want to show you the mistake that most people make. Equals, click on the sheet, click on the cell, click back on the sheet. You never want to do that, because what does it do? As soon as you click on a sheet, it puts the formula into find whatever current sheet I'm on and put that name there. So because we click back here, it's putting CR8 because that's the name of the sheet. Escape. All right. Now I'm going to build my whole formula. And what we want to do is equate this to this with a logical formula. So you ready? Equals is that equal to, and now we'll have to click back over here, click there, and now I'm going to hit enter. False. Well, that's what a logical formula does. It gives us true or false. Now, obviously there's a difference here, but this kind of formula is accountants would want so that they can check. As soon as it says false, then they got to go investigate and find out what the problem is. All right, but now let's look at this formula here, F2. Sheet reference. Oh, look at that. That explanation point is automatically put in. As soon as there's an explanation point in a formula, Excel is saying this is a sheet reference. There's the name of the sheet, right? Hey, wow. That's really handy. That means when we have formulas that are looking through lots of different sheets, we easily know where that A5 is. It's on the CAR sheet. That's controlling accounts receivable. All right. Now, this syntax works just fine. But let me enter this. And I want to change the name on this, because anytime you have a space, there's going to be an additional little syntax in our formula. So I'm going to double click this, and then click between C and A and type a space. As soon as you have a space, we're going to see something different in our formula. So point number 1, we're going to see something different in our formula. Point number 2, if you change the sheet name, click back on CR8, click in the cell B13 and F2. Oh, our formula updates. Wow, totally nice. But look at that. Those little apostrophes, anytime you have a space, you'll see those apostrophes. All right, that's a sheet reference. Let's try something slightly different. And we're going to get into trouble with this sheet reference. And then there's a couple ways to deal with this trouble. But let's do an if formula. I don't want to see true or false. I want to say not in balance. So I'm going to say, just as we did earlier in earlier videos when we did our if function, equals if. And remember, the if takes a logical test and puts one of two things into a cell. So I'm going to say, hey, logical test. Oh, is that equal to? I'm going to click on the sheet, and I'm going to click there. Now, I can't hit Enter right now, but if you look up in the formula bar, you see our formula emerging. Now I'm going to type a comma. See the comma up there? Now I can click back on this sheet, and it won't ruin that one. So I click back over here. And now what happens is it's still automatically going to put the sheet references in. But I can simply highlight it. And what do I want? I want to put some text here for the value if true. So I'm going to put in balance, in double quote. Remember, text and formulas have to be in double quotes, comma, and then the value if false is going to be, not in balance, or whatever you want it to say. End double quote, close parentheses. Control Enter. Now, our formula right here wasn't too involved. I'm going to hit F2. But we saw how when we click back on this sheet, it put some unnecessary sheet references in. Let's look at a great way to deal with this. This workbook, we have one workbook open, and we're looking at one sheet. But if we go up to the View tab, there's a great option here, or feature. We can say New Window. So this is View, Windows Group, New Window. And just like that, oh, look what happened to our title bar. There's a colon. So the same file name with :2. And sure enough, if I click down here on the taskbar, if I click over here, there's two workbooks open. One's a 1, one's a 2. Now, they're not really two workbooks. We're just looking at the same workbook twice. Once you have 1 and 2 or more open, you can come to Arrange All. I'm going to say vertically. That's how you arrange these two, and then click OK. And now I have 3 workbooks open because our next we don't want to see that one right now. But no problem. We can do a custom. We can actually click and drag over this one. You can actually move these around however you want. You're not limited to this Arrange All. Now I'm going to click over here and Control Roll to zoom in. I'm going to click back over here and Control Roll. So you see you can go back and forth depending on which sheet is selected. Now, anything you do in one is going to happen in the other. They're not really two different sheets. They're just viewing. So if I scroll here, you could see that's 8. And then I come over here and I scroll. All right, so it's just we're looking at 2 different views of the same thing. Now, let's create our formula here. I'm going to just start over. Equals, and you can notice I'm typing here, but it's showing up over here too. If this one right here now is equal to, now I'm going to come over here and watch this. I'm going to click on this other sheet. You can see over here our formula evolving. Now I'm going to click there. Type a comma. And now if I were to come back over to this sheet, you see I clicked right there, and no problem. It didn't put an unnecessary sheet reference. Not only that, but if you're building a formula back and forth, watch if I click right here. Oh, no annoying sheet reference, because I don't really want a sheet reference here. If this formula sits on the CR8 sheet, I don't want it to say have the sheet reference there. All right, so now we can finish the rest of this formula without having to delete that unnecessary sheet reference. In balance, otherwise not in balance. Now, I want you to know something. I spell checked. I mean, I'm a bad typer, and I can't type, and I can't spell, and I spelled something wrong there. But watch this. I'm going to Control Enter. Now, think about this. That text is actually embedded inside of that formula. Before I show you how to solve that, I'm going to close these. So I'm going to come over to this workbook right here and click Close. Then I'm going to click, notice now the name on this one no longer has a 1 or a 2. It's just back to the original one workbook open. Now I'm going to maximize. And what in the world do you do about that? Well, of course, you do spell check. So I'm going to hit F7. F7. It says, do you want to continue? Notice I had that cell highlight, but I'm going to say yes, do the whole spreadsheet. It didn't find that error. And here's the deal. Anytime you, and I'm going to F2 here, anytime you have text in a formula, the only time that you can spell check is in edit mode. So now in edit mode, I'm going to hit F7. All right, so it's checking this, and I don't want, there's actually no space there, and I don't want a space. It's suggesting I do, so I'm going to say ignore once. And then, oh, I spelled it so badly that it's not even there. That's typical. OK, so I'm going to try and spell it right, balance, and then say change. All right, so if you have text in a formula, please spell check while it's in edit mode. All right, so now we saw how to do sheet references and also how to split our screen and show it twice so we don't get into trouble with sheet references. The next thing we want to look at is I'm going to go over to the CR9, and we're going to look at a workbook reference. I'm actually going to zoom way in. Workbook. Oh, workbook. Now, we just did a worksheet. That means you can go from one sheet to another and make a formula. But guess what? It's not limited to just sheets inside of this workbook. I have this other workbook. I'm going to go over to May Net Income. And actually, this file, May Net Income, can be downloaded from our link. Here is our net income for May from this workbook. And we got to keep this here, but we want, in case any of these numbers update, and this formula updates, I'm going to Control Tab to jump over to that other open workbook. I want this cell to be looking at that other workbook. Well, it's easy to do. You just have to have the two workbooks open. And just like a sheet reference, you have to click on the sheet in that other workbook. But before you get to that other workbook, you got to Alt or Control Tab and get to that other workbook. So let's try it. Equals. Now, I could Control Tab and jump, but I'm going to Control Tab back. Or you can simply click on the taskbar. I like Control Tab. So I'm here, Control Tab, click. Now look, there is our formula with our syntax for workbook references emerging. I'm going to hit Enter. Two things about this, three things. I'm going to hit F2. The first thing, escape. F2. First thing is I'm always annoyed that by default they are absolute. You are absolutely not limited to this. You could click here and use your F4 key, right? So oftentimes you have workbook references looking somewhere else, and you need this formula to move a certain way. Just click there and use your F4 key. All right, for us now, I'm going to leave it like that because it doesn't matter. We're never going to copy this anywhere. Second thing is you could see the square brackets. It surrounds the name of the workbook with square brackets. And then worksheet syntax is exactly the same. All right, I'm going to hit Enter. And then I'm going to say change equals. All right, whatever. That's not really important to this video here. But we got to look at the third aspect of workbook references, F2. This is just the name of the workbook. If I close this, this workbook right here, excelisfun start, has to communicate with that other workbook. So when we close the other workbook, this will turn to a full file path name instead of just the workbook name. Control Enter. All right, I'm going to Control S. Click over here, Control S. Close this. Now I'm going to click over here and hit F2. And there is the entire file path. The other thing about workbook references that people get in trouble with is, of course, since these are communicating with each other, if you move this, then there can be trouble or delete it or something like that. No problem. If you ever want to edit this and redirect it. If you accidentally move the file, you can go to, I'm going to click Escape File. Down here is Edit Links to Other Files. There's also Data, Edit Links, and then there it is. You can, if it is changed, you somehow moved or something like that, you can say Change Source, and then you have to navigate and find out wherever it is and double click it and reconnect it. All right, I'm going to click Close. Workbook References. All right, our final type of reference in this video, I'm going to click over on the Corp sheet. And actually, watch this. I want to zoom in, but I'm going to have to zoom in if I click on Oakland, Seattle, Tacoma. Each one of these I want to zoom at the in a certain amount. So I don't want to go on each sheet and have to zoom. But watch this. If I hold this sheet, earlier in this book, we saw that when you click in a cell and hold Shift and click in another cell, everything in between is highlighted. Well, if you want to do something universally to a bunch of sheets, we can use that trick. So I'm going to click on this first sheet. But before I click on Tack, I'm going to hold Shift. And now when I click, all of them are highlighted in blue. All right, now I'm going to Control and Roll. I'm rolling the wheel, and I'm going to get it nice and big. Actually, I could go like this, right? Alt-W-G. Now let's click, click, click. Now, one absolutely devastating drawback to highlighting sheets like this is if you forget to unselect them and you start typing, and I will show you here. I'll just put the R here. I'm going to hit Tab. It went ahead and did it to all the sheets. Now, wait a second. That sounds like a great thing. What if I wanted to universally edit a bunch of sheets that have the same exact template on each one? Beautiful way to do it. But I can tell you from experiences, more than one time I forgot, and then I'm supposed to be working on one sheet only, and I just destroy everything. So I'm going to click here and hit Delete. Notice it did it universally. All right, so we saw how to select sheets and universally change them. But now I'm going to right-click Ungroup or click on a different sheet. Now we want to see a 3D cell reference. And guess what? The 3D cell reference is going to use that same trick. Click, hold Shift, click. All right. Now, why is it called a 3D cell reference? Well, let's look. Oakland. Oh, there's January product 1. CTAC, January product 1. Notice it's B3. TAC, B3. Each one of those numbers sits in a B3. And over on the Corp sheet in B3, I want to say, please add up all of the B3s from Oakland to Tacoma. Now, this is just a small data set, 3, but you could have 20 or 30 or months. Maybe you had months, right? 3D cell reference, totally awesome. Now, I'm going to add. So what am I going to do? Keyboard shortcut for AutoSum is Alt equals. Now, it's waiting. It's saying, what do you want me to put in here? So I'm going to, involves a sheet reference, and it will be a 3D reference. All right, so I'm going to click on the first one. Notice that's white. This one's the active sheet. I can see the formula emerging in the formula bar here. I'm going to click on B3, Oakland explanation B3. Now watch this. Before I click on TAC, I hold Shift. And watch this, Oak. I'm going to click, I'm holding Shift, and I'm going to click on TAC. Look what happened to our formula. Is that not beautiful? There's a colon, just like we see with the sum function, A1 to B5 with a colon in between. Same thing here. Absolutely beautiful. It says all of the B3s from Oakland sheet to TAC sheet. And then I simply hit Enter, or I'm going to hit Control Enter because I want to keep the cell selected. Now I'm back in the Corp sheet. I'm going to hit F2. Absolutely beautiful. Notice this is relative, which is what we want. We're going to copy it down and copy it over. And I'm going to click here and hit F2. Beautiful. See Oakland to TAC sheet, all the B8s. Now, we haven't talked about the significance of a colon. Our next video, we actually will talk about it, but I'm going to give you a little preview here. Anytime you have a cell reference, colon, cell reference, or sheet, colon, sheet, it means you can insert sheets in between. So if all of a sudden we get a new business right here, or a new shop in Burien, right? I'm going to right click, insert worksheet, or I'm going to do the keyboard shortcut which puts the sheet to the left, Shift F11. I'm going to immediately call it BUR for Burien. I'm going to go over to my Oakland template, highlight, Control C, go back to Burien, Control V. I'm going to Control and roll to zoom in. And then I'm going to just put 1 everywhere. I'd have to fill these numbers in for Burien. But you will not believe what our formula did. Let's go back to the corp sheet. Click there and F2. Oh, well, it didn't do anything. It still says oak to tack. But no way. It's all of the B3s from oak to tack. The fact that oak to tack, there's a new sheet, it's adding. Now, watch this. That says 32. I'm going to go over to Burien, and I'm going to put 100. It should be 131, I think, right? So I go back over to Corp, and there it is. Absolutely beautiful. Those are 3D cell references, great to consolidate if you have the same exact template size on each sheet. All right, in our next video, we'll see another great example for a normal sum function with cell references and that colon. See you next video.